Now we've reached the chapter about BMF ownership, when we first became promoters.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Brian will be involved in this. He is brought up a lot. Obviously, he was the co-owner at the time. But we also got other stuff about, talking about Brian and our ordeal with Brian in a later chapter. Because it gets quite extensive from our point of view.
Yeah.
So, starting out about the BMF ownership. I do believe it was in March of 2010.
Late March, yeah.
Hadley and I both get a text, and I'm assuming Martin got it as well, about Brian's leaving. He just, for whatever reason, I can't even remember what the text said, something about...
I remember it saying that he just he couldn't devote the time he wanted to BMF. So he was giving us his half.
Yeah.
And I remember texting him back and being like, how much do you want for it? And he's like, well, I'm not selling it, I'm giving it to you. And I was just like, it doesn't feel right, just having me walk away empty-handed. Because, BMF was kind of his baby. It was his thing. And so it's like having him just give us his half and walk away, I felt was borderline almost disrespectful. Even though he's the one that initiated it, was saying it, it's almost like, really? We're just going to take this from you? And then later that night, I remember texting Martin and asking him if he saw it coming, and I didn't get a message back till later that night, but I remember Brian texting me later that night before Martin got back to me and saying, oh, it's just a hiatus, be 4 to 6 months. But I remember him saying, but you guys are still in charge. So, and then from there, I talked to Martin. Martin said he was only in it, he was only still owner because of Brian. So when Brian left, I didn't think anything of it at the time, but we later found out what that meant was Brian was gone, so he didn't want to do it anymore.
Which kind of led us into pretty much falling it into our lap. We didn't ask to be owners. It's nothing we asked for. We were just trucking along, doing the Uprising thing, planning our feud, getting ready to go into that, our breakup and all that stuff. So, we get with Martin. Like I said, this all happened within a week. Brian says, okay, he's going to be more on like a 4 to 6 month hiatus. Martin said, hey, I'm wanting out. Buy me out. So we bought him out. What was agreed to, and what Martin had said, he's like, the money thing's not an issue right now. He's like, I just basically want out. You guys can pay me back little by little when you can. Fair enough. Because I think he realized that we only kind of fell into our laps. We weren't planning on something like this.
Yeah.
It was the same night also, that final show was also when we had to start paying venue rental at Reilly's. I don't think they ever had to do that other than at the Sports Center in West Lafayette. So anyway, Martin goes out with a bang. I came up with a way for him to go out basically as a face, turn on me and do his little leg drop and all that stuff. So he's given us a crash course throughout that whole day of his last show, saying, hey, here's what needs to be done on every show, blah blah blah. Awesome. We had to get a couple people's behinds, mainly Scott's.
Yeah.
Getting on him to man up pretty much and do his thing. But that was stuff, the ownership stuff. That was kind of our real first taste of ownership. If we had to really come down on somebody, and then also having to deal with tear down or money stuff and all that stuff. So
yeah, that first night was really hectic. Because I remember that was the night you wrestled Jed and I wrestled Johnny Motley, and I just remember I remember Martin just like you said, giving us this crash course, and at the time I didn't really feel it. I didn't because I understood where Brian was coming from. I knew he's dealing with some personal issues, but I look back now and I'm just kind of the way he left and the way that he just kind of like you said, dropped it in our laps and just left. Didn't say, hey, keep this in mind, keep this in mind. Didn't show up and say, hey, look, let me show you guys what I would usually deal with, blah, blah, blah. Or didn't take one of us aside and say, hey, here's the stuff I do. Since Martin's leaving, you know, because I figured he was talking to Martin, so I figured he knew what Martin was leaving. But, like, I felt like Brian just kind of abandoned us. And at the time, like I said, I didn't have any issue with it, but I look back now and I liken it to a wrestler leaving a company and refusing the job. It's like, okay, why don't you at least pass the torch? I mean, Brian didn't even pass the torch. He just kind of, like I said, dropped it in our laps, set our pants on fire, and walked off. And, you know, like I said, that's no longer really an issue to me, but I do look at it like he should have done a better job of passing it on. But I remember you going off on Scott, because Scott left, and there was like, I don't know, it was, I think Brett had called Scott, and Jed got on the phone with him and started reaming him. So Scott comes back, you took him in the training center, and it's funny because it's me, you, and your girlfriend, and Scott, and you're sitting there just going off on Scott, just letting him have it, just wailing on him, you know, verbally. And all this, and then all of a sudden, you pause for a minute, probably to catch your breath, because you've been going like the Iron Man for like 10 minutes. And then like, you pause, and I just, yeah, Scott, we just need some more dedication. Like, it was just like, you know, you were going off, and then it was almost like good cop, bad cop. It was, you know, you're like, I can't believe this, you have no dedication, you need dedication, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Scott, we just need to see dedication. I mean, it makes me laugh to this day, but he deserved every minute of it. And then he didn't even have the balls to tell us he quit. He had to message us on Facebook, claiming that, what was it, he had a phone issue. Yeah.
But anyway, so, you know, we move on from that. And Hadley and I had come up, we hit the ground running pretty much. I mean, it was like, we weren't working together at the time yet, but
I remember you came to my house, my apartment in Indy, short, like I think a week or two later. We planned out May and I think parts of June.
Yeah, we started kind of doing this thing where we'd have so many ideas or whatever. Hey, we could start this guy wrestling this guy, and hey, this would be a good storyline. I mean, really, we've done this kind of stuff, like creative stuff, you know, years ago, like 15 years ago. I mean, we used to plan our own two-man wrestling shows, you know, freaking in our living room and all that stuff, you know. But it's something that we, you know, really sink our teeth into, and taking different business initiatives, trying to get some different sponsors, coming up with different ideas, different marketing ideas, or, you know, changing some stuff around that just we didn't feel was working. We wanted to put, as Brian would put it, our own thumbprint on it. We didn't want to wipe his away by any means. But we did want to also, hey, say, well, you're kind of letting us, leaving the ball in our court, leaving it in our hands, we're going to run with it, man. You know? Mm-hmm. And so we continued to do that. Our numbers climbed. They're not by a ton, no, but they did climb. They're, I think, like 60, 70. I think we did 70 some odd back-to-back months, I think. Yeah, then we went up to 80.
I think it was like 72 and then like 73. And then I think it jumped up to like 80 something, or right under 80. And then finally in July, we hit 93. And that was pretty huge for us.
Yeah, it just, little by little, the numbers started climbing. We started putting our ads on Wazy, you know, trying to get some younger guys, younger audience in. And doing all that stuff, putting up flyers, you know. Hadley was more the flyer guy, you know, to be honest with you. So anyway, so we're going. Brian comes back, I think, in August or September.
August.
And he does a run-in or whatever, does a spear, and then he cuts a promo. Gets winded, you know, does whatever.
Yeah, to be honest, and this is not a knock on Brian, like, because, oh, yeah, you know, we have heat, oh, you know, screw him. No, but his promo, I still to this day cannot tell you what it was about. I mean, he rambled, and I mean, he did say he was nervous before he went out there, so maybe that had a lot to do with it. But I remember Sean Cook and Billy Bart were, you know, in the locker room, because they were about to do an invasion that Brian had went to bat for with us, for Sean and them to do the invasion. And I was, you know, I really wasn't with it, but I was like, you know, we're not going to tell Brian, no, this is his thing. So we decided to coincide it with our storyline. And I told Sean and Billy Bart to go out there. Because I was like, you know, he's just rambling on. I think the crowd's getting lost. You know, we got to do something. And so Sean and Billy Bart went out there. And then that was the night that Sean and Brian, and I mean, we'll probably touch on this more later, but they cut a very vulgarity-laced promo that I did not like. And this was kind of one of the things we were kind of trying to change. It's not that we couldn't, you know, it's not that I feel that you can't go on a show and say ass or damn or hell. But to just go out there and use it just for the sake of using it, to me, it's pointless. It's like, why? Why not go out there and just, you know, keep it clean so a parent will bring their 3 kids. But at the same time, if you put enough, I feel if you put enough anger and stuff into your voice, enough bass in your voice, people will believe anything. You can go out there and tell them that Snoopy's attacking Charlie Brown. People will believe it if you say it with enough conviction. And I'm a firm believer in that. I don't feel like you have to go out there and cuss a million times just to make people go, oh man, he's angry. And that was the thing with, you know, one of the things that I think I was more trying to change. I think you were a little more lenient, like, so, you know, whatever you want to do. But me, I was kind of like, and I think a lot of it may have been because of Billy, but also because I do feel like if the kids can't come to the show, and I think this was proven when BMF ran adult shows, our draw for those was a lot lower than our draw for the family shows. And the reason being, I feel like because a kid's going to see the flyer and go, oh, I want to go see wrestling, as opposed to the dad looking at it at like 32 and go, I should go see wrestling. You know, the kids are going to bring the parents. So, you know, we're trying to draw more of a crowd. Better to draw a family than just, you know, a couple of adults. So, like, that was one of the things, and then they went out there and kind of undermined all that. And I was just like, oh, I was angry.